Hello and welcome back to the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast. Josh is back. I'm back. We've had a bit of a hiatus, it'd be safe to say, but it is as of recording the 31st of January, so we've got out the January episode just in the nick of time. How have you been, Josh? How was Christmas? How was all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, Christmas very nice, quiet one with family. New Year's pretty similar.
Good.
And then trained a little bit over the break, but just enjoying the time off because I was working a little bit in between Christmas and New Year's, so just made the most of the days that we had off, and then was pretty much straight back to it. Beginning week of January, new intake of clients for 12-week transformation program, and
Nice.
a majority of them have come to like the first 3 to 4 week check-in with body compositions, and pretty much all of them have had significant improvements, and not just with their body comp, but just mentally as well. And they're actually seeing it's nice that, because some of them were a little bit, am I doing the right thing? It's like, no, carry on, trust the process. You're training well, you're moving well, and you're doing the things nutritionally, and it's been paying off. So very positive.
Nice.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Been full steam ahead. We have, I mean, everyone's like, sure you get this from like people who don't really work in this, like, oh, you must be absolutely slammed because it's January. And like, I think actually as a PT, like, it's okay. It's one thing, obviously your gym that you work for is a bit more established and you've got a few more in place. So you've probably done some marketing on a January drive.
Yes.
Left to their own devices, people are just trying to do it themselves in January, pretty much. So I expect we'll be busier next month. We also run an outdoor gym and the weather's minging. So we've maintained numbers, would be safe to say. I did very much enjoy the day we had when it was -7 and we still had 6 people there, like brushing the ice off the wall balls, which was a testament to their dedication and potentially James my dedication, but not quite in the same way. I have very cold feet. But I'd be just back from 3 days skiing.
Nice.
Nice.
Where did you go for that?
A bit of food poisoning. I went to Italy. Went to Cortina in the Dolomites, which was absolutely beautiful. Very like quite ritzy as well, as my friend would say. Lots of like boutique shops in the village and stuff. It wasn't. We do it with a bunch of my university friends, so it's probably the one of maybe 2 times we all meet up each year. So we beverages are definitely consumed and we get up to a bit of, but it wasn't necessarily the play. It wasn't a party town, so we had a bit more relaxing, sophisticated time, but it was good.
Nice, very good.
And touch of food poisoning, which was all right. I got through it. Glad.
Do you have any idea what caused it?
Nah. Ate the same as everyone else pretty much. So I don't know. No one else got sick. I reckon I got something like dodgy ice cube or something on my hands or something. I don't know. Whatever. Finished quite quickly. Luckily enough for the flight, because that was very rough coming into Heathrow on Monday morning. So much so we got hit by lightning, which I'd never experienced before.
Exciting.
I mean, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Obviously. Not speaking from beyond the grave, so it's all good. It just bounces off the plane. My one of my university friends is a pilot, so I looked over to see what Abby was doing. She rolled her eyes, went back to sleep. I was like, well,
we're okay.
Very routine. Which when we got off the plane, she said it was. So literally bounced off it. I mean, I guess it just finds an earth somewhere and disappears. So it made a lot of people jump on the plane there.
I'm sure it did. Yeah,
it was quite amusing. I'm fairly sure we weren't going to die. That was quite fun. So that's that. That's my little catch up. I am a bit jaded today. Yesterday, I absolutely destroyed myself doing some stupid cardio thing.
Oh, really?
In my pursuit of being a functional fitness
enthusiast.
Enthusiast would be a good. Yeah, we had what was it? 2K 2K row, 2K ski, 4K bike in quickest time possible.
Okay.
It's safe to say the bike is my least favorite piece of cardio equipment ever. So 4K on that after the other two things, and the ski isn't my friend either. So that was and yeah, we got a few of us do. We're sort of in various team competitions this year, and one of my mates, Charlie, had set a time which I was trying to beat, and I nearly did, but he still did me by a few seconds.
Oh, okay.
But as I was finishing off the ski erg, James walked over to me, my colleague, and stood behind me and was like, he was encouraging and giving me some advice, which I was thinking, why don't you go forth and multiply, James, at the time? But he was giving me the right advice. I just didn't want to listen to it, which did spur me on. But the thing that spurred me on the most was he said, right, now I'm live streaming it to the WhatsApp group with everyone. I was like, oh God, I better not quit now.
Yeah.
And actually, I maintain that I am more of a sprint athlete. So the last 300 meters on the bike, somehow I managed to go from doing like a 2:10 on the split to like a 1:40.
Oh wow.
So there was obviously something left in my legs that would unlock at a certain point, a certain mental hurdle of you're nearly finished. So there we go. So
nice.
Today was a struggle, but I feel back up now, and I'm having a nice early night tonight, I think.
Very good.
Right, so on to something more useful, maybe. Am I right? Let's talk a little bit about goal setting. Probably quite trendy right now in January. What's your take on it then, Josh?
It was kind of loosely inspired by personal experience, and also there's a fitness YouTuber I follow called Alan Thrall, spelled THRALL, and he's majority of his stuff is strength-based, powerlifting, strongman, and now, like a lot of other people, he's kind of gone down the hybrid athlete route of lifting and running, and incorporating plyometrics and things like that in his training, and also having dabbled in a little bit of Olympic weightlifting, just as strength sports enthusiast. So I like his content. Nice. He's an honest voice in the space, it seems. I'm
on his YouTube channel now. He looks like your kind of guy.
Yeah.
Got a big old beard and profile.
Yeah. And one episode, it was just a long form training vlog with him narrating over the top of it, and it was on the topic of goal setting, and his take on it is sometimes that they're wildly overrated. And and then I kind of related that to a question one of my colleagues had for me, which is what's my goal for this year, and some context for him. He's in his younger years did a bit of boxing and then kickboxing, and then moved to bodybuilding just because he didn't like getting kicked in the head anymore.
Understandable.
And has competed as a natural bodybuilder, and then took an off season, and then was kind of putting on a lot of size, and then thinking I might diet down again to do a show, I might not, but now he is committed to doing a show. And then he asked me what I was aiming for this year. I was like, don't really have one. It's just like stay consistent and with training and nutrition, and that's kind of it really. And then Alan's thing was asking the question, or someone asking the question, if you don't have a goal, then what's the point? And it's okay not to set a goal. It might seem unambitious, but if you're going to the gym, it's still a productive thing. If you're taking care of your nutrition, it's still a productive thing. And if you go with that mantra into training and nutrition, then you can pick exercises, you can pick foods, you can pick meals, all that sort of thing that you like and enjoy, and those kind of things motivate you in and of themselves, rather than needing some external motivation or anything like that. I would say if you've got a holiday or a wedding that you want to get in shape for, but then what happens after the event, basically.
Yeah, I like that. I think as well, like sometimes you can put the cart before the horse with it as well. So often then the focus becomes on the goal rather than doing the thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I mean by that is like I want to lose 2 stone. Great.
Mm-hmm.
And then a week goes by, I still haven't lost 2 stone. No, well, you won't have done in a week.
No.
But also, just wanting it to happen is one thing. But what are the building blocks to make that happen? Are we moving enough? Are we getting enough protein in? Are we in a calorie deficit? Because without those things happening, like nothing happens, and then it can become almost like obsessive around goal, 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 and it sort of almost takes the attention away from the thing, and it's like, oh well, calorie tracking doesn't work, or being in a calorie deficit doesn't work. I had this on my ski holiday. One of my mates was like in the corner chatting away. I was next to my other mate, who I've done nutrition coaching with him. He's developing a tennis app at the moment, which is pretty cool. Like, gives you like feedback on your game, gives you suggestions on how to like improve, and stuff. He's like, he does a bit of tennis coaching stuff. Anyway, he got in pretty good shape, and obviously, like, I got him in pretty good shape by, well, he got himself in pretty good shape as well by putting himself in a calorie deficit and then eating the right amount of calories around his tennis so that he fueled that properly and didn't go off a cliff and things like that. So he fully understands that it is calories. Like, doing that is like doing it's the hard bit, but it is calories. My mate was like, well, doctors suggested me to do the Mediterranean diet, and then he said something like about it. He was like, yeah, well, then you go and eat, but then like you look at like a McDonald's, and then that's only 500 calories. So obviously, it's not calories that work, do they? It was like, I think Timmy's got a different opinion on that. I'm staying out of it. I'm staying out of it. You got to pick your battles. But yeah, and I think quite often as well, people can like with that goal, like, people can be a bit like hyper focused on it. And that can lead to anxiety, and sometimes we can forget, like, I think circling full back, like, we can forget that actually training's a hobby, right? Pretty much, even for you and I, Josh, I mean, we're lucky enough to call ourselves professionals, but let's be honest, our own personal training is a hobby. Paid to go, and well, I certainly don't go to competitions and get prize money, so I don't earn a living out of it. It's it's good marketing. It's good to like walk the walk and experience different things, but it's supposed to be fun, right? Or, as I said to my again, like, quote, said to my friends, or the group at the gym the other day, we're talking, I was like, like, a lot of people find it fun. One of the guys was like, it's weird, like, I talked to one of the girls the other day, and he was like, obviously she's like only 19, but so she hasn't got family and stuff, and like loads of responsibility. She's still got a job and things to do, but he was like, what do you do away from the HQ? And she's like, oh, nothing, I go running. He's like, well, that's a thing. And he's like, loads of people here do like 2 things, like they do stuff outside of being at the gym as well. Maybe I need to start doing that. And that was like his whole point was, but then I was like, but those guys, like the guys you're talking about, like, enjoy it. I was like, and it's good to find something enjoyable, but sometimes people just like thinking about like what his mindset would be around it. I was like, sometimes, like, he does enjoy being at the gym with us and like the banter and stuff and all of that and like bits of it, but I know he wouldn't enjoy running. So I was like, sometimes people are just finding something that's tolerable because they know they need to do it, but it's like, what's the most tolerable version of fitness I can do? Okay, I'll do that. That can change with the seasons, and like, you can have a goal, then you can get injured. Like, if your goal is to go run a ultra marathon, but then some sort of injury flares up, if you've got a whole hat around that being the thing, that's going to lead to a bit of, I mean, it'd probably piss you off anyway if that was like a goal, but at least if there's other stuff on the go, and you're willing to pivot, then you're still going to be in a nice mindset with that, I think. So I mean, the whole goal setting thing's overdone a little bit sometimes. It's like all the bloody teach you all like, did it with nutrition, did it with level 3, level 2 PT, goal setting, smart goals, all of this stuff. It's like, I was like, I do get it, but in terms of like the practicality, if someone comes in and be like, right, I want to lose a bit of weight, or I want to get in shape, or I want to get fitter, it's like, right, let's talk about your smart goals. It's like, fuck off. I've been in an office all week talking about this kind of corporate bullshit. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Tell me how to get from A to B. Right? So
Yeah.
I think as well that could be a bit like overplayed. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the questions that Alan asked in the video was like, would you be doing this if you couldn't tell anyone about it? Which I thought that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Because whether it's training or nutrition, particularly from a nutrition point of view, I've spoken to plenty of people who have either I've done the Zoe study, I'm doing keto, I'm doing vegan, I'm doing intermittent fasting, I'm doing any number of things, and it's partly one's a little bit of a status thing, but also just a little bit, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's like a brand name, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I really like that point, and it's kind of to go back to what you were just saying, finding a tolerable way to exercise, and it might come to a point when you're a bit more into it, or a few years into it, where you try and end up treating it a bit like play, or you find some form of play in it, and kind of having that as a sign of maturity. So rather than just exercising for the sake of exercising, it's like you found a new level of getting into some kind of flow state.
Yeah, and how powerful is that in the modern era of like stress and stuff? Yeah. I was thinking to myself today, actually, my gym session today was a bit more enjoyable than yesterday's one, but it wasn't. I'm trying to learn to split jerk at the moment.
Oh yes.
Fucking infuriating. I hate it and I don't hate it. I will like the outcome when my coordination will finally let me do it well. Also, I like when I'm doing it, I'm analyzing everything and thinking it looks like absolute shit, and then a week later I look at the video and I'm like, it's not perfect shit. But like, so like my session today was like 90% frustrating. And then right at the end of it, I get to do, it's not a lot, but I get to do 4 sets of 2 rope climbs, which I can do and I'm getting better at and getting more efficient at. And like literally is like being a toddler in a playground. You're climbing up a rope, zipping down it. It's like adults don't get to play in the modern world. But like, I think on like a natural level, we're designed to be like hunter gatherers and like catch animals and like fight people. Like as much as that's not what we do in the modern world, there's still that kind of instinct that that needs to be scratched of playing. It's like, you know, everyone's probably experienced that, where like there's like a cousin in the family, like a small child, and you play with them for a bit and you just like lose yourself, and it's just a bit of fun. You get all sweaty and you didn't mean to, and it's not like going to the gym and grinding out an hour of cardio with like some heavy music playing with your colleagues shouting at you. Like it's not the same thing. And I found myself, I was literally thinking that earlier. I was looking back at my little video I took of my rope climb, and I was like, wow, that's cool. Like, imagine when I had a corporate job, I wasn't climbing up and down a rope on Friday at 2 p.m. So that was I think that's something to be said for that.
Definitely, yeah.
Anything else around the goal side of things?
No, that pretty much covers all of it. Yeah.
Cool. I think I would sort of segue slightly on we'll talk about manifesting a little bit, which sounds a bit wanky, doesn't it? It sounds a bit woo-woo. But I'm not going to sort of go off on one in terms of like a philosophical thing. But I found myself saying to one of the members the other day, we've got 3 teams in Turf Games, which is a functional fitness competition. CrossFit competition. Come and see me, CrossFit. You're probably busy doing other things with your legal team at the moment. A little dig. So we've got 3 teams in Turf Games. We've got like let's say we've got A, B, and C team. I'm running the B team. James is running the A team because he's better athlete than me. And we got a C team. And like, to be honest, we put the C team in originally into the novice version of it, whatever they call it. And then logistically that wasn't really going to work that well. And to be honest, none of them are necessarily, they've not done one before, but they can all do the intermediate one.
Right.
But a few of them like got a bit in their heads. It's interesting to see like psychology about it. And like I was talking to one of the guys about it yesterday, and I was saying like I was trying to share a bit of my experience having competed, and like also when you're a bit older, it's kind of a bit you kind of see things a little different way. And I was like, you'd be surprised how much weight you can add to that bar in a competition environment when everyone's like, and as well, like, it's not like a head-to-head thing, turf games. Like everyone's competing to win the thing, right? But they're not really, because there's 6 of you in a lane. And like when we did Tribal Clash in the summer, you haven't got a clue what any other team are doing. Zero clue, because you're all like communicating with each other, like adjusting tactics, encouraging each other. It's all about your 5 teammates and yourself. We spent at Tribal Clash, we spent the whole weekend, every event we did, we're in the pen next to the team next to us. So we started talking to the team next to us and just like, hello, how you doing? Like we see them like 3-4 times a day. They were in the top 12. I had no fucking clue they were that good when we were doing it. I was like, oh, they're looking, they look fit. They look a little bit younger than us. They don't look like ridiculously different to us. Occasionally see like a fraction of what they're doing next to us. Then it gets to the end and we're 100th and they're 12th. And I wouldn't have had a clue without seeing the scorecard. So I was trying to explain all this to him. And I was like, also like from my experience with strongman competitions, like that buzz that you get, even if it's like nervous, that's adrenaline. And adrenaline like does improve your performance. And again, that's like evolved behavior, isn't it? We all heard those kind of stories of someone gets trapped under a car and someone finds the strength to the car up and stuff. I think that's kind of that kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, no, I'll go the other way with that. I'll just cave into it. And I was like, you will if you say that. I was kind of like, I pretty much said to him, let's stop talking like that right now. Because the more you say it, the more it's going to happen. Let's try and say the other thing. Because like, it's weird, but it works. Like you become the thing that you say. So then it's like, oh, I'm uncontrollable around sugar. Are you? Are you actually? Or do you keep reinforcing that narrative? Or like, oh, I inflate like a balloon when I see a carb. Do you though? Or do you like refuse to have them for such a period of time that when you do have them, you have loads and then you get really bloated because your digestive system's just gone, like I can think there's a bunch of other ways, like, and why does someone like sometimes then if you say like a real elite sportsman, it becomes like people sort of view it as being a bit arrogant or something. But if you like something like Muhammad Ali, like, what's he known for? I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. Gets him in the morning, looks in the mirror, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. Like maybe we don't need to go to that extreme with things, but
no,
like he did get beaten once in his professional career. He wasn't infallible, but to say, if anyone's ever seen him box, like to say that he was a confident bloke in the ring is pretty much an understatement, right? He's like probably the first person ever. Like I think Prince Nassim Hamed used to do it a little bit, but like he wouldn't have his hands up when he was like boxing in a guard. He was basically like, "I'm quicker than you. You're not going to hit me in the face." And the fight he got beaten, he did get lamped. I think the Rumble in the Jungle that he ended up winning, he did get smashed in the face as well. So again, not an infallible strategy, but you're more likely to kind of do the thing if you believe you can do the thing. And whilst that sounds a bit woo-woo, it works. Like, interesting, I'm going to do a talk next Thursday down at Athlete Movement with one of our members who's had on the podcast, Helen, before. We put some bits and pieces together, and she was talking about she wants to, and I'd be really interested to see what she says, and I think she'll come on the podcast and we'll kind of do the same thing. We'll kind of like have a recap of what we did in the talk, but she talks about like even with like emotional eating and power of visualization, which again people feel is like a bit woo-woo, but like kind of to share my experience from sport maybe and from strongman. I think I have done it with cricket and had some success. I'd never done it with strongman until like James encouraged me to, because I used to just keep messing things up in strongman. I just couldn't find a way to like deliver the potential, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you've just got to find a way to like be. And I ended up being like, in my head, it was like calm, clarity, intent, because you've got to lift a heavy weight. You've got to give it something.
Yeah.
But that was leading me to be a bit erratic, because I was trying too hard fundamentally. And so he's like, just like try and visualize, like think in your mind what a good rep looks like. Visualize that, do what you need to do to see it in your mind's eye, and then send it.
Execute, yeah.
And from then, I think anytime I want to put a big weight over my head, I just stand there. I stamp my feet a couple of times, which sometimes people take the piss out of me for, but that's just my way of like switching on, getting a bit angry. But then I shut my eyes, take a deep breath, see a good rep, and then try and do it.
Yeah.
And it works a lot. That it's not going to add 30 kg to my overhead press, but it's going to make sure that I hit a weight that I know I can hit 9 times out of 10. It's going to bring that to 9 times out of 10 rather than 4 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Because even just before I do it, the little man on my shoulder is like, nah, you're going to miss it, mate. So you kind of have to knock him on the head a little bit and be like, am I there? Here's a good, and actually, like, this is kind of thinking out loud. Like, I've probably talked before about that chimp paradox, about that sort of mind management. That's kind of like the chimp is very like aggressive and very fearful and things. So it's the chimp saying you can't do it, but then you need to show him that you can. So that moment where I shut my eyes and replay, and I'm literally replaying like a video in my head of what me doing a good one. It's like, well, I can't, like, there it is. Can you see that I've just done it? And it's like a weird, like, psychological thing. And I think as well, it's natural if people are competing or they're doubting themselves, like that self-doubt gets vocalized. Like
imposter syndrome kind of kicks in as well.
It's a fear thing, isn't it? It's a protective thing. Like, oh, well, I won't do any good, so it doesn't matter. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how you do it. It's just fun. But what would happen if you did do really well? How would you feel? Okay, well, let's leave it to that. What does feeling good feel like, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that was my take on it. And I think I see it, I see it a lot with like nutrition, of like, oh, I've got a ridiculous sweet tooth, I'm just addicted to sugar. I think Tom Bainbridge posted about it today. You kind of similar sort of things of, he was talking about like people getting sleepy, that like refusing to have carbs at lunchtime because it makes them sleepy. And he was like, have you just heard that on a podcast enough times, or read it in enough like in social media posts to then believe it? Because he was like, if you just had like a small jacket potato alongside your lunch, that's probably going to make you sleepy. But then he was like, it becomes this self-reinforcing behavior of like, you might go out on a Sunday afternoon with your family. The option is to have like something massively carby, and you go for like a full roast or something, loads of carbs in there, and you're like, yeah, shit, I feel really sluggish and crap. It's the carbs, because you've already sown the seed. Rather than like, if you ate that meal at any time of the day, like you would feel like Christmas Day, because that's what it is. And he's like, also, everybody gets sleepy at 2 or 3 p.m. It's like circadian rhythm. That's just a fact. You're not going to solve that by knocking the carbs on the head. Directly. So it's like, are you manifesting that as well? Because just because someone said it enough times, it's like the whole like sugar makes kids hyper. That is the biggest example of manifestation. And maybe they do get hyper after they've had the sugar. I'm not saying they don't, but sugar is not a stimulant, so it's not chemically making them hyper.
No,
it's like the scenario of oh, you get to have this, oh no, don't have that, oh no, you'll get all hyper. And it's not like, even like if you're not telling the kid, like, oh, bloody hell, grandma, you've just they're my problem now. When they go home, they'll be all hyper. And it's probably a scenario where they're with the family, they're not in like a normal routine. There's a party, like, all that kind of stuff. So again, like, different bits to do with that. So that, I guess my point is, try and like think about the ways that you're talking to yourself in relation to your goal, and try and frame it positively if you want to be successful, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. Particularly with the manifestation thing, it can like even not have to relate to training or nutrition, but preempting a situation by guessing or manifesting how you're going to react to it. So if say I'm moving into this new thing or something comes along and it's already, you're talking about it early enough that it's building up anxiety in the person, and then they say, well, if this happens, I know I'm going to react like this, and that again just puts you into a bad position, because say you're in that situation and you have to have a conversation with someone. It might be a difficult conversation, and this topic gets brought up. It's like, I knew I was going to react like that. It's like, well, that was your choice.
Yeah.
Because you were manifesting on the lead up to it, or you're just thinking, well, this is how I am. It's like, it's not necessarily a sign of emotional maturity. It's how you choose to respond to whatever's coming at you, or whatever's going to happen. Is that's the better approach to it, rather than coming in with an initial expectation of what you will do in that situation, rather than just kind of going with the flow, giving that thing space, and then choosing how you're going to react to it.
Yeah.
I think if people had a bit more of that attitudes towards it, it would free them up a little bit more, and take a lot of stress off themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like we've got to be sort of like careful to think. I was having this conversation as well, like going very much into psychology, but like human behavior. I think people tend to be either one side of the fence or the other. They're either got an internal locus of control or an external locus of control.
Yeah.
So an internal locus of control is that went wrong. What did I do wrong? Whereas an external locus of control is that went wrong. Whose fault was it?
Yes.
Like that's my best example of it. So like if I use like an analogy, if I play cricket and the bowler gets me out, I could blame the ball or the way the pitch was prepared, or I could be like, how do I improve my technique to stop that happening again? And which one of those, like in reality? So like it's very cathartic to then be like, oh, the pitch was awful, the ball was like dodgy, the bowler was cheating. Very cathartic, but can I influence any of those three things?
Yeah.
I can't stop him cheating if the umpire's not going to stop him cheating. I can choose to, like, I guess I could choose to take some time to prepare the cricket pitch myself, but I don't know how to do that. And the guy at Guildford probably isn't going to let me. Yeah. So, what can you control? You can control what you can do. And again, it's like sometimes taking that step back and being like, actually, is there something that I could have done differently in that scenario? So here's like a nutrition example of like one of my clients has been like a little bit sticky progress recently, bit of stress and stuff. So been like kind of exploring the different things that are happening, lots of water retention going on. And like I'm always like learn very early on that you give it a good couple of weeks before you jump the gun with anything.
Yeah.
So quite often the first reaction is like, let's just see, well, how was this week? Was it compliant? Yeah, I think so. Okay, well, let's try and do that again and see what happens, because it might just be stuck for reasons outside of our control, normally water retention. 2 weeks in, nothing's happened. So this week it's like the conversation. I was like, well, to be honest, like how compliant have you been? Yeah, I've been pretty good. Maybe I could attract a few more things. Okay, tell me about that. Well, I have been estimating quite a bit. And I was like, well, tell me about food this week then. What's food look like? Well, this, and this. I had like, and then it's like, oh, well, I've had some sausage and mash, and and it's like, it's a bit like stodgy. And I was like, yeah, but calories. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did track that. Okay, fine. we had like cauliflower cheese. Okay, he's like, yeah, a bit stodgy as well. I was like, yeah, but again, like calories. So he's like, yeah, let's have it. And then like he pulled out his phone with his tracking app. He was like, yeah, I wasn't really too sure how to do the cauliflower, how to track the cauliflower cheese. I was like, oh, great, okay, fine. Let's have a look. Let's see what you did. He's like, yeah, I just like used the generic entry for the sauce. I was like, okay, fine. I was like, 120 calories for the sauce. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. He goes, how much cheese did you put on it? He's like, yeah. And then the next thing he did, like without, I'm not like really waiting. I was about to sort of say something. And he was like, next thing I see, he's like typed into his thing, like cheese, 100 grams. It's 400 calories for 100 grams of cheese. He's like, well, I haven't had 100 grams of it, but like I might have had 50. And I was like, well, there's like 200 calories. And I think, we've made a little bit of progress on the measurements this week. So we're like in and around maintenance. So it's probably is like over the course of a week, 200 calories a day, probably just pushing you out of a calorie deficit. But then the conversation becomes really simple of like, do we need to have a little bit more? Do we need to weigh a few more things? And I'm not saying we're going to go start weighing our cauliflower because it's fresh air in terms of calories, but we probably should pay a bit of attention to our cheese, oils. We should probably measure out a little bit. Peanut butter, we should probably weigh out what we should. And I was like, don't get me wrong. If you were making progress, this doesn't need to be a conversation. If you're guessing at it and making progress, fine, good job. That's where the data of it all comes in. The scales have gone down, the measurements have gone down. Doesn't matter how you're doing it, it's working, right? If it's not working, then it's why. And it's like this kind of, and he's definitely not an external locus of control guy anyway, but like it's like internal locus of control is like, right, how do I fix that? What audit do I need to do to find where these calories have gone? And for this week it's going to be that, and I think he'll do it, and the progress will restart. But again, like people sometimes get frustrated with lack of progress. Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if it's not working, possibly not. If it's working, you are. But then I guess the other side of the fence is like people often think like progress should be way quicker than it actually is. And that's kind of where we come in a little bit to be like, yeah, that's quite good progress. And I think looping back to what you said with your guys have been like, am I doing the right thing? Yeah, absolutely, making great progress. Great rate of progress is this. Oh, right. Oh, didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my kind of like loop together of all those things.
I like it.
Anything else you want to talk about today?
Glucose Goddess is on Channel 4 now.
He's on Channel 4. Fantastic.
Yeah. I haven't watched the program yet, but a client did mention that she watched it and she found it interesting. So I did leave her a lengthy voice note of things to be aware of when consuming any of her content, and other people like that. So she did take that on board, which was good.
My client sent the other day. He was like, "Oh, I'm sat in this work thing, and the guest speaker is rattling on about how Stephen Bartlett's a really good source of information." So I just sent him back. My message back was people seem to like bullshit. Love that. But people do like it's like we all like to be entertained, right?
Sure.
And a novel concept, regardless of the fact whether it's right, is entertaining. And like that fraction of like, oh, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe it's this like shiny product or brand, which that's what she is as a brand. She's got a brand and a brand identity, and that's all like around controlling glucose.
Yeah.
And I think when that is the product, you get very attached to it.
Yes.
I kind of have to be a little bit careful with myself. So I like food flexibility is about having a flexible approach to what you eat. But I also need to be careful to remember that I don't promote heavily to just eat pizza all day long, provided it's calorie appropriate, because clearly that's not like nutritious compared to a more balanced meal. But it is just food.
Yeah.
But I always like have this in my head of like, just because that's the name and I'm very passionate about that flexibility, don't let it muddy the waters of the right thing from a health perspective. So, like, that's like my own conflict, which I think is like 1/1,000,000th of what she's doing by just spouting out bullshit.
Yes.
But like, this is where like the Zoe project, oh, we're going to monitor your, micromanage your nutrition, because we've got a big team of people who can analyze it. And then, in reality, you send your samples off to the lab and you get report A to C of whichever one they pulled out the filing cabinet with like a brochure and stuff. Because that's their product. It's personalized, but is it actually personalized? If it was personalized, you'd be in one-on-one time every week with someone. So it's not, is it?
No.
But the attraction of the product is like the thing. But why do people like a Mercedes over a Skoda? It's brand, right? It's status, all those things. Like, so it's natural, normal behavior. But yeah, and people can say what they like on the telly. Like, they get popular. Like, the president of the US can say what he likes.
Yes.
Sometimes he's right. Sometimes he's wrong. I'm not going to get political about it. Like, anyone can say what they like, and if they say it convincingly enough, people believe it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be careful. Do your research, I guess. Or come and talk to Josh and I.
Or ask us, yeah.
Right, let's leave it there. Any take-home bits from you today, Josh?
The manifestation piece, and you are what you say a lot of the time, and like negative self-talk is not good for you. Sometimes you do have to have some honest moments with yourself, but even then, it still needs to be in somewhat constructive. Exactly. Because otherwise, you're just going to be in an endless spiral of negativity.
Yeah, and I guess my take-home point then is like to sort of put onto that. It's okay to be like, mate, you fuck that up. That crap. How do I move on?
Yeah,
because that's the way.
Like James says, next job.
Yeah. Next job, yeah. But like, how do I move on? What do I need to do differently next time? Versus fucking hell, I hate myself for fucking that up. And then a week later, fucking hell, I did it again. What a dick. And then a week later, why can't I not stop doing this? Well, answer that question then. Like, that's the bit. That's it. That's your in. What's happening? What's happening? And that's kind of, sometimes it's hard to do, but like you say, next job.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's leave it there. We're back in the game. We're back in the room. Probably a little bit out of practice, but we got the ball rolling.
It seems all right.
Thank you very much for listening, guys. If you want to leave us a review, please do that. Help the little pod grow. Josh, where can people find you on the internet?
Online at JoshWeebout90 on Instagram. That's my main thing I use at the moment. Fantastic.
You can find me at Food Flexibility, foodflexibility.co.uk. And until next time, thank you for listening. And please remember, carbs won't make you fat.